I'm 75 years old, and I never had children. Not because I couldn't, not because of some medical tragedy or heartbreaking circumstance. I made a choice, multiple choices actually, over many years. And now I'm going to tell you the truth about what that choice has meant. The parts nobody talks about, the parts that will make some of you uncomfortable, and the parts that might surprise you. My name is Alina. I've been married twice, divorced twice, and I've spent the last 23 years single by choice. I live alone in a small house in Oregon with a cat named Fitzgerald and more books than any reasonable person needs. And I'm going to tell you something that society doesn't want to hear. I don't regret not having children. But that's not the whole truth. And the whole truth is a lot more complicated than that simple statement. Let me take you back to the beginning, because understanding my story requires understanding where I came from. I was born in 1949, the youngest of 6 children. My mother had her first child at 19 and her last, me, at 32. She spent 13 years of her life pregnant or nursing. By the time I was old enough to really observe her, she was exhausted, worn down, a ghost of whoever she might have been before children consumed her entire existence. My father worked at a factory. Good man, worked hard, but he was never really around. The children were my mother's domain, which meant the children were my mother's burden. I watched her life. I watched her give up every dream, every ambition, every part of herself that wasn't mother. She'd wanted to be a teacher before she got pregnant with my oldest brother. That dream died when she was 19 years old. She never complained, not out loud, but I saw it in her eyes sometimes, this distant look, like she was wondering about a life she never got to live. When I was 15, I asked her if she was happy. She looked at me for a long time before answering. Then she said, "Happiness isn't the point, Alina. Responsibility is. I have 6 children who need me. That's what matters." Notice she didn't say yes. That conversation planted a seed in my mind, a dangerous seed for a girl in 1964. The idea that maybe motherhood wasn't the inevitable destiny of every woman. Maybe it was a choice. But in the 1960s, that wasn't something you said out loud. Women got married. Women had children. That was the script. Questioning it made you selfish, abnormal, somehow broken. I went to college in 1967, first person in my family to go. I studied literature. I fell in love with ideas, with books, with the life of the mind. I had professors who took me seriously, who treated my thoughts as valuable. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was more than just someone's future wife and mother. I met my first husband, David, in my senior year. He was getting his PhD in history. Smart, kind, shared my love of books and deep conversations. We got married in 1971. I was 22. Everyone immediately started asking when we'd have children. My mother, his mother, relatives, friends, strangers at parties. When are you going to start a family? As if David and I weren't already a family. As if we weren't enough on our own. We said, not yet. We want to establish our careers first. That bought us a few years. David got a teaching position at a university. I got a job at a publishing house. We had a small apartment in Boston, filled with books and records and the freedom to do whatever we wanted. We'd stay up until 2 a.m. talking about philosophy and literature. We'd take spontaneous weekend trips. We'd spend entire Sundays in bed reading. It was a good life. I was happy. But the questions kept coming. By the time I was 27, the questions became concerned. You're not getting any younger, Alina. Don't wait too long. You'll regret it if you miss your chance. David started talking about children too. He said he'd always assumed we'd have them eventually. I realized we'd never actually discussed it seriously. We just assumed we were on the same page. We weren't. I tried to imagine it. Pregnancy, childbirth, sleepless nights, diapers, my career taking a backseat, because let's be honest, in the 1970s, it was always the mother's career that took the backseat. watching my body change, giving up my freedom, becoming my mother. I felt trapped, suffocated just thinking about it. I told David I wasn't sure I wanted children. He said I'd change my mind. Everyone said I'd change my mind. Women's biological clocks, maternal instincts, it's different when they're your own. All the things people say to dismiss women's choices. At 30, I told David I definitely didn't want children. He said we should try anyway, that once I held my baby I'd understand. He was certain. I refused. That marriage ended when I was 32. David remarried within 2 years, had 3 children with his second wife. Last I heard, he has 7 grandchildren now. I don't know if he's happy. I hope he is. People blamed me for that divorce, including my own family. My mother said I was selfish. My sisters said I was destroying a good marriage over nothing. Friends took David's side. Every man wants children, they said. You're being unreasonable. But here's what nobody said. What about what I wanted? Why was my desire to not have children less valid than his desire to have them? I spent my 30s alone, focused on my career. I got promoted, became an editor, worked with authors I admired. I traveled. I had relationships, but I was upfront about not wanting children. Most men lost interest when they realized I was serious. At 38, I met James. He was 45 and had 3 children from his first marriage, teenagers by then, almost out of the house. He didn't want more children. We seemed perfect for each other. We got married when I was 40. It was good for about 7 years. Then his youngest went to college, and suddenly our house was quiet. And James realized that while he didn't want more children, he did want grandchildren eventually. He wanted family gatherings and holidays with children running around. He looked at me one day and said, "We're going to grow old alone." I said, "We have each other." He said, "That's not enough." That marriage ended when I was 52. He remarried too. His new wife had 2 young grandchildren from her first marriage. He got his noisy holidays. After that, I stopped trying, stopped dating seriously, stopped defending my choices to people who would never understand. I'm 75 now, and this is the part where I'm supposed to tell you I'm lonely and full of regret, right? That's what people expect. That's what they want to hear to validate their own choices. But it's more complicated than that. Am I lonely sometimes? Yes, absolutely. There are days when the silence in my house feels oppressive. Days when I see families together and feel a pang of something. Not quite regret, but a wondering about roads not taken. There are practical concerns too. I'm getting older. My health is mostly good, but it won't stay that way forever. When I get sick, there's no adult child to call. When I die, there will be no one to inherit my possessions or tell my stories to their children. My line ends with me. I've had to plan carefully for my old age. Long-term care insurance, a solid retirement fund, legal documents specifying my wishes, a network of friends I've intentionally maintained, because I won't have children to fall back on. That's scary. I won't pretend it isn't. But here's what I need you to understand. Having children doesn't guarantee you won't be alone. My oldest sister had 4 children. She's 79 now, and you know how many of them visit her regularly. 1. The others are scattered across the country, busy with their own lives. She sees them at Christmas if she's lucky. She spent 30 years raising them, sacrificed her entire adult life for them, and she's essentially alone anyway. My brother had 2 sons. One died in a car accident at 28. The other hasn't spoken to him in 15 years after a falling out. My brother is 77 and more alone than I am. The promise that children will take care of you in old age is a myth. Some do, many don't. And having children just so someone will take care of you later is a terrible reason to have them anyway. So let me tell you what my childless life has actually been. Freedom. Real, genuine freedom that most people never experience. The freedom to move across the country on a whim. I've lived in 6 different states. The freedom to change careers in my 40s. I left publishing to teach writing. The freedom to spend my money on myself, travel, books, experiences. I've been to 37 countries. I've seen the sunrise over Angkor Wat and the northern lights in Iceland. I've studied art in Florence and meditation in Thailand. I've had adventures that would have been impossible with children. I've had deep, meaningful friendships. When you don't have children, you don't take friendships for granted. My friends are my chosen family. I've invested in these relationships intentionally. I have a friend circle of 5 women all around my age, 3 with children and 2 without. We've supported each other through everything: divorces, illnesses, deaths, triumphs. They're my people. I've pursued my passions without compromise. I've written 3 books, taught hundreds of students, mentored young writers, made a difference in lives without being anyone's mother. I've known myself in a way that many people don't get to. When you're not defined by being someone's parent, you have to figure out who you are on your own terms. That's terrifying, but it's also liberating. I've had quiet, God, the quiet, the ability to think, to read, to exist in silence without small voices demanding my attention. For an introverted person like me, that's been priceless. My days are my own. At 75, I wake up when I want. I read for hours if I feel like it. I volunteer at the library. I take long walks. I have tea with friends. I go to lectures and book clubs and concerts. Is it selfish? Maybe. I've been called selfish my entire adult life for not having children. But I've come to realize that living authentically is not the same as being selfish. Here's what I wish someone had told me when I was younger. Not wanting children doesn't make you broken or abnormal. The maternal instinct is not universal, no matter what society tells you. Some women are born to be mothers. Some women are born to be other things. Both are okay. But here's what else I wish someone had told me. The choice has consequences. Real consequences that you need to be prepared for. You will be judged, constantly. People will assume something is wrong with you. You'll be called selfish, cold, unnatural. You'll be excluded from certain conversations. Some people will never understand you. You will have to be intentional about building your support system. Children create automatic family structures and connections. Without them, you have to build that yourself. It takes work. You will face your mortality differently. When you have children, there's a sense of continuation. Your genes, your values, your stories live on. Without that, you face the reality that when you die, you're just gone. That's existentially challenging. You might feel differently at different stages of life. I never wanted children in my 20s or 30s. In my 40s, I sometimes wondered if I'd made a mistake. In my 50s, after my second divorce, I was grateful I didn't have that complication. Now, in my 70s, I'm at peace with it most days. But there are still moments. I see my friends with their grandchildren and I feel something. Not regret exactly, just a recognition of a life experience I'll never have. I watch my nieces and nephews. I have 14 of them and I feel love for them. I've been a good aunt. I've been present in their lives in ways my own aunts weren't in mine. Several of them are closer to me than to their own parents. That's meant something. But it's not the same as having your own children. I'm honest enough to admit that. So what's the truth nobody tells you about being childless? The truth is it's neither the tragedy people with children imagine, nor the perfect freedom you might hope for. It's a trade-off, like every life choice. You trade the profound experience of raising a child, the love, the meaning, the legacy, for a different kind of life. A life of freedom, yes, but also a life of intentionality. You have to create your own meaning. You have to build your own legacy. You have to be deliberate about connections and purpose. Some people thrive in that, I have, but it's not for everyone. Here's what I've learned. The question isn't whether having children or not having children is the right choice. The question is what's the right choice for you. If you genuinely want children, if you feel called to parenthood, if you can't imagine your life without them, then have children. Don't let fear or career concerns or anything else stop you. That's your path. But if you don't want children, if the idea fills you with dread rather than joy, if you have other dreams that don't include parenthood, then don't have them. Don't let society or family pressure or fear of regret push you into a choice that's wrong for you. Because here's the thing, you might regret not having children, but you also might regret having them. And which regret can you live with better? A friend of mine, she has 3 grown children, once told me in a moment of brutal honesty that she loves her children but wishes she'd never had them. She said, "I lost myself completely. I never got her back." And I can't say that out loud because what kind of mother admits that? That broke my heart. For her, for her children, for all the women who feel trapped by choices they can't undo. At least my choices are ones I made consciously. My life is exactly what I chose. That's something. I think about death more now. That's what happens in your 70s. My funeral will be small. My friends, my nieces and nephews, maybe some former students. No children standing at my graveside crying for their mother. Some people would see that as sad, but I see it as honest. I lived the life I wanted. I made my choices with open eyes. I don't have regrets, or at least none that haunt me. I'm leaving my estate to my nieces and nephews, to scholarship funds, to organizations I care about. My legacy won't be genetic, but it will exist. The students I taught, the books I wrote, the lives I touched, that's what I'm leaving behind. Is it enough? I don't know. Ask me on my deathbed. But today, at 75, sitting in my quiet house with my cat and my books and my memories of a life fully lived on my own terms, I'm okay. More than okay most days. I'm not telling you this to convince you not to have children. I'm not anti-children or anti-family. I'm telling you this because the conversation around childlessness is always one-sided. People assume childless women are either tragic figures who couldn't have children or selfish creatures who chose careers over family. The reality is more nuanced. Some of us just didn't want to be mothers, and that's okay. If you're young and uncertain about having children, here's my advice. Really examine what you want. Not what your parents want, not what society expects, not what your partner wants. What do you want? Sit with that question honestly. Don't have children because you're supposed to. Don't have them out of fear of regret. Don't have them to save a relationship or to fit in or because you're worried about being alone later. Have children only if you genuinely want them. If you can imagine your life with them and feel joy, not dread. If you're willing to sacrifice your time, your freedom, your body, your career trajectory for them. If you're ready for that responsibility. And if you don't want them, that's okay too. You're not broken, you're not selfish, you're just different. And there's a whole life waiting for you that doesn't include parenthood. But be prepared for the consequences. Build your support system intentionally. Plan for your future carefully. Create meaning and purpose in other ways. Don't just drift through life assuming it will all work out. You have to be more intentional than people with children. And be prepared for judgment. Lots of it. People will never understand your choice and they'll make sure you know it. Develop a thick skin. Learn to say, this was the right choice for me, and leave it at that. I'm 75 years old. I've lived a rich, full, meaningful life without children. I've had great loves, close friendships, amazing experiences, and fulfilling work. I've made a difference in the world, just not through motherhood. Could my life have been good if I'd had children? Maybe. I'll never know. That's the nature of choice. You commit to one path and let the others go. But this path was mine. I chose it deliberately, and most days that's enough. The truth nobody tells you about being childless is this: it's not a tragedy. It's not a fairy tale. It's just a different life, with its own challenges, its own rewards, its own meaning. And it can be a good life, a really good life. If this resonates with you, whether you have children or don't, whether you want them or don't, share this. Comment with your own truth. Subscribe if you want to hear more honest conversations about life choices that don't fit the script. Because we need more honesty in these conversations. We need to stop pretending there's one right way to live. We need to let people make their own choices without judgment. I'm a leaner, I'm 75, I never had children. And I'm doing just fine. Thank you for listening.